All right, guys, back again. Let's talk about Evil Dead Rise, which just came out this last weekend. It is the fifth film in the Evil Dead franchise, which is a franchise that I love, by the way. I think that they're all awesome. I genuinely love all four of the Evil Dead movies, even the remake, which some people don't like. But it's weird with this franchise. I really love the fact that these movies have been separated throughout the years in terms of you had the first one in 1979 or 1981 whenever it was released. It shows like 1981 and then 1979 in some places online, and then the second film was released in 1987, so almost a good 10 years later. Then Army of Darkness in 1992, then the remake in 2013, which was 21 years after Army of Darkness. And then this one comes out in 2023, 10 years after the Evil Dead remake. So it's funny that this franchise can just stay kind of dormant, but still come out with a good product afterward. Which I really like because waiting that long, that's going to suck if you don't like the movie 10 years later. Um, the plot of Evil Dead Rise is two sisters that are at odds with each other are encountered by deadites. One of the sisters gets possessed by a deadite in a high-rise building. Now, this movie was originally going to be put on HBO Max. During the pandemic, they announced a lot of HBO Max exclusive movies, and this was one of them. And then it didn't go to HBO Max, which I think is really good because this movie I thought warranted a theatrical release for sure. And I read that this movie got great reception critically from audience screenings, that they wanted to put this in theaters because it's that good. Why put it on just on streaming? And I know that theatrical movies sometimes feel like they're dead now because there's so many movies that are bombing. Like for example, Shazam 2, which I watched. I didn't review, but I thought it was okay. That movie bombed pretty bad. But there are reasons behind that, of course, with that franchise, in terms of DC and the outlook change on that franchise, anyways. But yeah, this we were at a weird time 2 years ago because we were trying to be so quick on changing everything because a lot of people didn't know what was going to happen in the world. But I'm glad that it's back to normal, and I'm glad to see that this movie got a theatrical release because this movie deserves a theatrical release. It's great. Um, Lily Sullivan plays Beth, who's the main girl who is the one who's not possessed. And Alyssa Sutherland plays Ellie, who's the possessed sister. These girls are really fantastic, and it's not to say that Evil Dead has always had awesome badass leads, whether it's guys or girls. Like I said with Ash Williams, he's great. Um, with um, with the fact that you have him in the first three movies, he's awesome. Um, with having the Evil Dead remake, I think is great because I really love that character in the remake. And Ash vs. Evil Dead is a great show as well with Dana De Lorenzo. Really, really badass in that as well. Um, I really love those people. Bruce Campbell, Jane Levy, and Dana De Lorenzo. They're all great, great characters. And also Ray Santiago. I gotta give a pointer to that. Tim as well. He's great in that show. Um, though those are awesome characters, and I think that they're great in all these movies. These leads, and like I said, Lily Sullivan is no exception. She's really, really great. She's the one who is the survivor, the one who tries to make it through, while her sister is possessed. And her sister, Ellie, is really scary, really effective, and I genuinely was shocked at like how good this performance was. And I don't know who this actress is, Alyssa Sutherland. I wrote the name down just so I don't remember or so I don't forget. Alyssa Sutherland. I don't know who this actress is, but she's fantastic in this, and I really, really dug that. Um, this movie, in terms of gore, is definitely it's weird. I feel like people say that this isn't as gory as the other ones, but man, I thought that when you see the gore, it's gory as could be, and I like the fact that this movie did a good job with that blending of both the gore and the in the story elements, because you could just have an exploitive movie, which I like as well. I love exploitive gore. I love exploited gore as well. So that's fine if it's just that, but I like that the story was good too because I like these characters. I thought that the kids were not as interesting as the main leads, but I thought that they all were fine. There's a great standout scene in terms of horror in this movie that I really liked, and it was funny too because Evil Dead has always been comedy and horror mixed together. And there's a great scene where Ellie, the possessed sister, is at the door talking to her daughter through the people, and you see a shot of Ellie through the people saying, "Let me in. Why won't you let me in?" And the little girl's like, "You're possessed," and she's like, "Well, that's nothing that a little hug and kiss can't fix. Let me in." Like, that's great. And then while this is happening, you get people getting slaughtered through the peephole, and it's a great use of keeping a standstill focus on the camera while showing something bizarre and gross happening at the same time. I really dug that. Um, this movie is weird because it's not the movie I expected in terms of fanfare, because this really didn't have that much fanfare in it. And at first I was kind of annoyed, not at the movie, but in terms of, even though Army of Darkness, or not Army of Darkness, even though Evil Dead 2013 established that Ash is connected to that with the after credits scene. After Army of Darkness, you've got the connection between the Evil Dead remake and the original series. But in this one, it feels like I thought there'd be like another reference to, if like, to these other characters, but you get a Bruce Campbell cameo, which I thought was good. But it's a voice cameo, so it's a cameo I didn't expect. I actually looked it up and found out later after I watched the movie that it was Bruce Campbell in the recordings. And the director said that he wanted to believe that this is a version of Ash that was back in time, so in like 1923. So because Ash has time traveled so much in the past and the future, and that is no exception to have him do that in 1923. So that would be cool. That's cool that they brought Bruce Campbell back in that cameo fashion. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell produced this, which is awesome because, like I said, they're both masters at this. It's a great use of having them in this franchise, but this movie was not the fanfare I expected in a good way, because you get, like, at first, like, I thought it was a little annoying that you didn't get any like answers to like what happened at the end of Evil Dead 2013 or even Ash. But I mean, yeah, the Ash versus Evil Dead show. But still, I thought that it worked. In like, I respected it later. Like, I respected the fact that it wasn't that much of a fanfare show or fanfare movie. It didn't really show that much fanfare, and I felt like that made it good because it stood out on its own. This movie does have connections. Like I said, Bruce Campbell does a voice cameo. You have Bruce Campbell's car. I forgot what kind of car it is, but you've got the car. That's what's seen in the parking garage. Um, there is, somebody said something about the name of a pizza, which I guess is related to the series somewhere. I don't remember. There's the iconic line, Dead by Dawn, which is, of course, from Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. There's a couple other lines. I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you, in Sing Song. Um, the use of the chainsaw, not the same way Ash. It's not like anybody puts the chainsaw on their arm, they just use a chainsaw. And it's awesome. And like I said, the gore in this is really good. And people are saying it's not as gory as the other ones, but man, I thought that whenever it shows the gore, it really ups the ante great. And it really does a build up. Like, there's gore in the movie before the ending, but the ending really is that build up. And it also does a weird thing where it starts at the beginning of the movie, but then it flashes forward a day earlier, which I thought was interesting. But then whenever it got to the end, I felt like that was rewarding. But at first, I thought that was kind of weird that they did that, because some movies do that where it's like big action sequence or big horror sequence, and then cut one day earlier or 2 days later or whatever. That kind of annoys me in movies whenever they do that, just because they want to get the audience amped up at the beginning. But it worked here with that. I thought that worked fine. Like I said, new set of good characters, good gore, good effects. It's really good on its own. Like I said, I was annoyed at first that it wasn't as connective, but man, just after I watched the movie and after like a day of thinking about it, I've got to respect it even more because they didn't do that, because that's what every other movie does nowadays. Marvel does that, Star Wars does that. Um, Anything else that's related to a sequel or a franchise connects them in other ways bigger than this. And I like that this movie was tame on that fact that it was not trying to be just a fanfare movie. And I thought that was cool. It had fanfare moments, but they were very small. Like I said, the lines, the iconic lines from the other movies, or having the Bruce Campbell cameo, voice cameo, or having the car that Ash drove. Like those are really small connections, but that made the movie stand on its own regardless of that. You don't have to know that to enjoy the movie, which I thought was great. You don't even have to watch any of the other Evil Dead movies to like this to see this movie. You didn't have to watch any of the other ones if you could literally go see this movie and that'd be awesome, and you'd still like it or not like it, whatever. It's not that connected, which I thought is respectable, especially in this day and age with films and crossovers and everything, film show crossovers. So that's pretty awesome. At the end of the movie, whenever the movie ended, somebody walked out of the theater. Like whenever the credits started rolling, somebody started walking towards the end of the theater, screamed out loud, "Thank you everybody for not laughing or for not clapping at this piece of crap." And I wanted to just throw my popcorn at this guy and say, whether you like this movie or not, like don't be a douchebag about it. That's not cool. It's not respectable to do that to people. Like, why would you think that that's okay? Whether you hate it or not everybody's going to hate it. This movie actually got really positive reviews, which I was surprised. Not in terms of my entertainment personally, but in terms of horror movies in general, because a lot of horror movies just get really shit on by critics, and I mean they're the same thing. A lot of them are generically the same thing, um, in terms of what they are, in terms of the exploitation factor, and that can happen with any genre, with action movies, with romantic movies, with comedies. They can be generic, and critics really rag on horror movies. So I was surprised that this one got really good ratings. It honestly has some of the best ratings of the whole franchise, which is genuinely surprising because I really did like this movie, but I thought that critics were not going to like this one either because they didn't like the other ones as much. I mean, the first two, I bet they liked An Army of Darkness. I don't know. The remake kind of got really not great reviews, but I really loved the remake. It was awesome. Still awesome. I just rewatched them all. That one really holds up. But yeah, it's a franchise that I really am digging. It did the same thing that the Scream franchise did, where like it's like every 10 years, the last couple times, or I guess in the case of Army of Darkness to the remake, it's 20 years. But you know what I mean. It's they do a long difference between the movies, which is fine. If the product is great, that's awesome. I'm really glad for that because, like I said, this was great. It took me a minute to really solidify my thoughts because at first, when I got out of it, I said to myself, this was fine. This wasn't anything super special. But then thinking about it over and over again, the good moments are really good, and I really do like it. And I'm glad that I did see it. I'm glad that I watched it. I really liked it, and I'm gonna definitely get it on 4K or Blu-ray whenever it comes out. It's definitely a worthy sequel to the franchise. Definitely one that doesn't have that many connections in a good way, in a respectable way for the franchise. And man, it was really fun. Like I said, it just took me a minute to really solidify my thoughts. So that's why this review took a couple days. But yeah, I really dug it. So awesome. Really good, really excited fan here of the Evil Dead franchise. Can't wait for the next one. They even said that they're now talking about a roadmap where, like, every 2 or 3 years, they're going to try to make an Evil Dead movie if this one is successful. And this one has made good money so far for the franchise, which I'm glad for and really appreciative of. So that's awesome. They can do whatever they want now with the next sequels. And if they do them every 2 or 3 years, that's great because they've waited 10 years or 20 years between them, and then now they're going to try to rush more out, hopefully in a good fashion, which I'm ready for because I love this franchise. Really fun, really enjoyable. So yeah, I had a fun time. I really dug Evil Dead Rise. It was just a really entertaining time. So that is it. I haven't been doing as many reviews lately. I have been busy with work, so there were a couple movies that I saw that I missed out reviews on for current movies. But I I really like doing this, but it's just kind of hard sometimes personally to do it all the time. So so like I said, I'm enjoying doing these reviews, but I can't do every review for every movie. So it's hard to keep up, especially with personal life and other stuff I want to do. I definitely had to review this one, and I'm definitely going to review more movies soon. But that's why I've been kind of on a standstill lately. But I had fun with this, so I really am glad, and I can't wait. I wanted to see Beau is Afraid, but I have not seen that anywhere for my current theaters right now. I don't see it anywhere, not even at the indie theater. So that's surprising. So I'm gonna wait, and if it comes out and I have the time to review Beau is Afraid, I'll review that. But that's definitely one that's up on the cards. Um, but yeah, like I said, I'll have reviews coming up. I'm gonna try to get back into the groove, but as of now, I'm glad I reviewed this one. This one was really entertaining. So that is it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.